What's up, guys and gals? Trevor the Great here again from Way of the Swan with another battle report coming at you. Before we get into the battle report too far, I just want to make one quick announcement, which was that the website, wayoftheswan.com, just got a big old overhaul. I moved it from the old web post I was at, which was super slow and super crappy and made everything way more difficult than it needed to be. Moved over to a new one, which is cheaper and it's faster for me to post articles, and it's a little bit more functional. It's faster on the user's end, so hopefully that'll be a lot better for everybody. Certainly it's better for me to post articles, which is good because I'm going to be able to post articles with a little bit more frequency. I'm hoping for once a week. We'll see. Depends on if I have enough to write about and if I have enough time. I'm not going to make any crazy promises, but that's the plan right now. And hopefully more battle reports too. We'll see how it goes. Again, no promises, but fingers crossed I'll be able to post a little bit more frequently. So yeah, you can check that over. You can head on over to wayoftheswan.com to check that out if you want to take a look. It's all been redesigned and everything looks super pretty, and I'm pretty happy with how it came out. But today we have a super cool battle report. This one is going to be a little bit of an interesting matchup. It's going to be Caine1 versus Madrak1. So that's Lieutenant Allister Caine versus Madrak Ironhide, the Thornwood Chieftain. Super interesting matchup. It's just a casual game that I played with one of my friends at a local game store. I've been playing around with this Caine1 list for a little while. I've decided to take the trip on over to Virginia to go to the Nova Open, and they have a Theme Force tournament there that I'm thinking of playing in, so I'm just playing around with some crazy theme forces, and this one being one of them. This is a Sons of the Tempest theme force with Caine. So I'll get into my list real quick. Obviously, it's a theme force. It is tier 3 of Sons of the Tempest. So in it is Caine, and in his battle group is a Stormwall. That's it. Just in his battle group. I think that gives him enough focus to both fuel the Stormwall and do some other stuff with his focus. He's a very active caster and wants to spend a lot of focus casting Deadeyes or shooting his own guns. So I played him for a while with 2 Stormwalls, but I think one fits a little bit more. There's also 2 units of gun mages. Now the theme force reduces their point cost by 1 and also gives the second one a free UA. So both of those units of gun mages are going to have a unit attachment, and they're both going to start at 5 points, which is really great. That unit is so good. Getting that points cost reduction is a big deal. And then super simple to fill out the rest of the list. Each of those gun mage officers is going to be marshalling 2 Hunter Light Warjacks. So not a lot of craziness going on here, just a bunch of guns. I'm going to try to use Thunderbolt to push my opponents away from the Stormwall, not get in melee as much as possible, and hopefully be able to whittle them down before they get into me. So yeah, that's the plan. We'll see how it goes. Anyway, over to the Trollblood list. As I said before, this is Madrak1. This is a list that my opponent and I actually built together a while ago as a Crix answer. Madrak1, obviously, pretty great answer to infantry. With his feet, he can give everybody overtake and additional attacks, so they can just chew through a ton of infantry, and it just becomes crazy. Obviously, he's very defensive by himself with his Surefoot and his abilities, as well as the Curlstone. So he can get up in the middle of the table, really put pressure on your opponent, and get up there with Carnage in his feet and do a ton of damage. So here's what we have in the list. In Madrak's battle group, there is a Pyre Troll and an Impaler. Pyre Troll's in there to add some extra punch to the melee units if you need it. Impaler is in there to snipe either Madrak's ranged weapon or the Pyre Troll's ranged weapon, and obviously having that boostable gun in there, and another boostable gun is pretty good. There's a bunch of units in the list. There is a max unit of Fennblades with their unit attachment, a max unit of Long Riders, and as well as a max unit of Warders, and then a minimum unit of Curlstone with the Stonescribe Elder. Obviously, the maximum Curlstone's a pretty big deal, but Madrak's only Fury 5, so he doesn't usually have the Fury to fuel the thing up to full. So unfortunately, he's going to be mainly dribbling a Fury in there, 1 or 2 a turn. So the minimum Curlstone is really all you need. And all it's really there for is to protect the Warders as well as Madrak. They're going to be the meaty core in the middle, whereas the Fennblades are going to range out way far outside of the Stone's aura as well as the Long Riders. And then on his feet turn, they're going to come back in and try to get a bunch of work done. But mainly there to keep the Warders and Madrak safe in the beginning of the game. There's also Janissa Stonetide, another model in there to keep Madrak safe, and she's pretty good at doing that. Between Surefoot and Cover from a Wall, he's very, very resilient, especially to ranged attacks, and even difficult to hit with melee attacks, which is a pretty big deal, since he's such high armor and is usually going to be camping a couple transfers as well as his scroll. So he can really get up in the middle of the table, get that carnage going, and put a lot of pressure on your opponent. She sometimes gets swapped out for a Thrall in this list too, if Body and Soul is an issue, so the Thrall can knock those upkeeps off. But if that's not necessary, she's a really strong option. And then, last but not least, Horthal, the Long Rider hero, is in the list to give his elite cadre to all of the Long Riders, giving them Line Breaker as well as Follow Up. So that makes a lot of crazy things happen between Madrak's feet and Follow Up. If the Long Riders can slam a guy and then follow up into more guys and then start taking their Crusher attacks, they can do a ton of damage just by themselves. To buff all these guys, there's also a Fell Caller as well as a Stone Scribe Chronicler in the list to keep everybody a little bit safe on the way in. And the Fell Caller's in there for a +2 mat usually, which is a pretty big deal, especially on Crusher Chains. You want to get those mat 9 or 10 in there so you don't have a very big chance of missing those important attacks. Alright, so I'll get into the scenario real quick. We're playing scenario number 1, Destruction. Pretty simple scenario. There's just a rectangular zone in the center of the table. Each player has an objective in the zone. We're both playing bunkers this time, so both of the objectives are going to be bunkers. A little bit of annoying for me because I have mostly ranged attacks, so I'm not going to be able to take out that objective too easily, especially since the Krillstone aura affects it, so it's going to be armor 20. You can score in this scenario by destroying your opponent's objective for 1. Now, it is an enemy model, so it is controlling the zone, or contesting the zone, so you'll have to destroy it in order to control with other models. You get 1 point for controlling the zone and 2 points for dominating the zone, 5 points to win, and there is a kill box, so if either of the Warcasters or Warlocks end their turn completely within 14 inches of any table side, their opponent will immediately score 2 points. Obviously, in this scenario, it can be very swingy. You can score 3 points in 1 turn by destroying the objective and dominating, which means if your opponent killboxes himself, there's a pretty strong chance that they can just go in and win right there. So, enough about all the lists and stuff. Let's get on into this game and see how it goes. So I ended up winning the roll to go first because of my Theme Force benefit, and that allowed me to choose between whether I took first or second. I ended up taking second so I could choose the table side. This was for a couple of reasons. First of all, that big house in the middle of the table there was going to be a huge issue for my Stormwall, and I didn't really want to give my opponent the side with both his hill and this wall, so I wanted to sort of deny him all that defensive terrain. So I ended up taking the side with the hill. Obviously, a Stormwall and hill still very good. It can ignore just about everything for line of sight, so that becomes a big deal. But anyway, pre-deployed the Stormwall in the center, and my opponent's deploying all his models. You can see the Fenblades and the Warders are sort of interspersed there in the center of the table. That's going to allow the Fenblades to run up first and make room for the Warders without the Warders really being slowed down by them too much. Madrak and all of his support cadre are in the back there. The Long Riders way out in the flank, and then Horthal, because he doesn't really need to be near the Long Riders at all to give them his elite cadre. They just need to be in the same list. The Long Riders and Horthal can take different sides of the table, and that will allow my opponent to bring those really fast, high mat options on either side. Now here's just my deployment, super simple. 1 unit of gun mages on each side with their attendant hunters, and that's about it. Stormwall and Caine's in the center, but this list is pretty straightforward actually. Not a lot of craziness going on. I can't really foresee a ton of situations in which I'd need both units of gun mages or all the hunters on one side of the table. Usually they tend to pull just about the same amount of work on either side, so fortunately pretty simple there. Here's my opponent's turn. Nothing super scary happening right now, just the Fell Caller giving the Fenblades Pathfinder. They're running through the forest. Warders following up behind, as well as Madrak. He fills up the stone with as many Fury as he can and puts Surefoot on himself before charging forward. So that's going to give him, and probably most of the Warders within 3 inches of him, +2 defense and immunity to knockdown, which is a big deal. The Krillstone moving up using its protective aura, because I can hit them on the first turn with those hunter guns. Basically all the guns in my list being range 18. I can do a lot of damage on the first turn with just shooting if that protective aura is not up. And then the rest of the battle group moving up. Janissa putting a wall down. My opponent did, unfortunately, lose his wall template, so we're just going to use dice for it right now. That's a cool little trick that we found out, is that a die is just about the same size as a wall template, so you can just line them up 4 inches across, and you can make your own little wall template there if you left yours at home for Janissa's wall. Last but not least, everything else running up. The Stonescribe Chronicler running around behind that building, the battle group riling, and then the Long Riders hiding behind that watchtower up there. That's going to make it a little bit more tricky to get line of sight to them than I need to with the Hunters. It's probably going to deny me some aiming, unfortunately. But my turn. So all these Femblades are running up in my face, and they're pretty scary. Between their mini feet for terror and +2 movement, and then the Felcaller can give them +2 mat, so they can actually hit those high defense infantry and warjacks that I have in my list. So I ended up casting Snipe on the Stormwall with Caine, allocating a 2 focus, and then casting a Deadeye on that Hunter there. Stormwall's moving up, taking its cannon shots at some of the Femblades, hitting them and automatically forcing tough checks with its big power 14 guns. And then dropping covering fire in front of them to limit the amount of run and engages or charges that I'm going to have to receive. The Hunter's starting to get work done, moving backwards away from those Femblades. Don't want to get engaged again. Boosting to hit some snipe shots. I ended up taking my first one out. Second one moving back. Shooting with another snipe shot. Killing another one. So far we've knocked 2 down. We've killed another one. Here's a Gunmage shooting. Hit. Kills a third one. So 3 Femblades down so far. Not too bad for my first turn of the game. Could have been a little bit better, but a couple tough checks were made. The other Hunter is going to be able to try to take out some of those Long Riders. The Long Riders are a pretty big deal. They're very fast, and with cavalry charge, they can be very high mat. So I'm going to try to get rid of as many of them as I can before they can get near me. So 2 snipe shots going down. We end up killing one of the Long Riders, which is pretty good. And then those gun mages moving up. I think we try to take some snipe shots, but are unfortunately out of range. And passing it back to my opponent. So probably another turn of running from the Trollblood side. Here are the Femblades moving up. Unfortunately, they don't get Pathfinder during their maintenance phase from the Fell Call last turn, so they're only going to go 1.5 inches through the rough terrain there for the forest, but 3 inches through the open terrain. A little bit of a disadvantage, but Vengeance is probably still worth it. It's a pretty good ability, it turns out. So here comes the Felcaller moving up, giving that unit Pathfinder again, so they're going to be able to move through the forest with impunity. And then they're just going to book it forward and try to engage as many gun mages as possible. So 2 behind that wall there are going to be a pain to deal with cover, and it looks like one of them is engaging a gun mage as well. The other one moving up, engaging 2 gun mages in the center there, and then the rest spreading out behind. With the unit attachment, the drummer gives the unit instep, so the officer is going to get +3 command when measuring his command to other models in the unit. So the officer is going to be, in the center of the table basically, and still be able to get all of those models in command. He has to move up a little bit there to get that last guy, but everybody in command at this point, which is a pretty impressive 12-inch command bubble. Warders moving up behind them. I get 1 covering fire shot at 1 warder, but I don't end up doing any damage. My opponent and I did consider, we talked about it afterwards anyway, considered mini-feeding with the Femblades just to force command checks, but I think he was hoping to save it for the threat range later on. Unfortunately, since he didn't mini-feed, I have a chance to kill the officer before he's able to use his mini-feed, so hopefully he can get rid of that. Last but not least, Madrak and the Krillstone moving up, popping a Protective Aura again, and then another wall going in front of Madrak, just to keep him safe from all of those long-range guns. He is, I think, camping 1 at this point, and Surefoot behind the wall in the Protective Aura. His defensive stats become insane, and I'm not really going to be able to do a lot. Horthal moving up, toting into that forest there to give him some concealment, and then the Long Riders running up to get some juicy charges off on those Hunters next turn. So I'm going to have to deal with these Long Riders this turn. If I don't, they're going to be able to deal a lot of damage, either kill my objective, which is not something I want to have happen, or be able to kill those Hunters. Also, equally, if not worse, bad. So we're back over to me. I drop Snipe, allocate, I think 2 more to the Stormwall. Possibly 3, I think 3 more. Caine moves up to the edge of the kill box there. That is about as far back as he can possibly get without kill boxing himself. And as I said before, it's very easy to win if your opponent kill boxes himself in this scenario. So it's not really something I want to have happen. But Caine ends up spending his remaining focus killing those two Fen Blades in the way there. So he clears off those two Gun Mages. They're going to be able to move into the zone and contest and just get in the way so the Hunters can hopefully survive for another turn. Taking some gunshots, we're going to try to Thunderbolt as many of the Long Riders away as we possibly can, trying to keep them at bay as long as possible so I don't have to deal with them. Still going to be a bit of an issue, though. I don't quite have enough gunshots to push them out of threat range, hopefully at least out of threat range of the Hunters. But here we go, more pushes going on. They were all in quite close formation, so it takes a little bit, some interesting angles anyway to push them in such a way that you can actually push them without hitting any other models of the unit. So here are some Hunter shots, aiming Hunters, boosting damage. Dealing a couple. I think we end up leaving 2 Long Riders on 1 box. One of them takes a tough check, and then one of them just gets left on 1 box from a Hunter shot. So 2 Long Riders are at 1 box at this point. Stormwall's moving up, facing those Long Riders. We're going to try to take one out with those cannons. We end up spinning up the miniguns, actually. So no covering fire this turn. Most of the Fen Blades are dead, so I'm not particularly worried about it. But here go the cannon shots, taking out one of the Long Riders. And then many Metal Storm shots, taking out Fen Blades. I took out the one in the back in case I wasn't able to take out the one in the front. And drop a Lightning Pod. There goes the Lightning Pod, and that Fen Blade in the center there makes 2 tough checks and survives. We ended up taking 1 Metal Storm shot into the Officer, hopefully to take him out, but unfortunately I ended up missing that shot. So no damage on the Officer from the Metal Storms. But here go the Gun Mages. Moving around, we're taking a free strike over the wall. Fortunately, the wall gives me a +2 defense bonus against melee attacks, so that free strike ends up missing. Putting 1 gun mage in the zone, the rest of them are going to file in the back there, try to stay safe, and then take some shots at that Officer. Something that's a big issue for this list is that there's no way to gain Fearless, so if those gun mages run away, it can be a huge issue. So I want to take that Officer out before he's able to make the Fen Blades cause terror. I do end up killing him, so the mini feat is out, and we kill most of the Fen Blades as well. The Piper is still there, or the Drummer is still there in the back, but all of the 3 melee Fen Blades in the front there are knocked down from tough checks. And then a Hunter shot going into Horthal, dealing him, I think, 9 damage. So Horthal is going to be sitting on only 3 at this point. Or, sorry, only 1. Before his dismount. So Horthal is not looking too great right now. But he's still on his Tuffalo and still very dangerous at speed 7. Mat 8, cavalry charges up to 10, so he's a pretty big deal. And if he can get there in there on Madrak's feet turn, he can get a ton of work done all by himself. Speaking of Horthal, the Fellcaller ended up going first, moving up, trying to get through that forest to get line of sight to Horthal. Unfortunately, not quite able to make it, because he himself does not have Pathfinder unless he gives it to himself. Which he decided not to. What he wanted to do was give Pathfinder to Horthal so he could not only charge through the little bit of the forest that he's towing in, but also over that wall and try to engage some of those gun mages there. Unfortunately, not able to do that, so Horthal is going to have to decide on a different play at this point. But here we have Warders moving up, trying to take out some of those gun mages there. 1 going into the objective, 1 gets stuck behind a Lightning Pod and ends up charging the Lightning Pod. And then 1 charging the gun mage in the center, 2 more guys filing in behind him to make a little bunker for Madrak to hide behind. It won't save him from the Stormwall, but it'll save him from the Hunter shots anyway. The pod gets killed. The charge on the objective does a couple points of damage, 3 or 4 points of damage, I think. I haven't triggered Battle Driven at this point, and the stone hasn't gone to give them its stone strength, so... Fortunately, they are not particularly... They don't hit particularly hard right now, just power 10. They're still Weapon Masters, though, so they can deal quite a bit of damage if they set their minds to it. Pirate Troll moving up, putting a Flaming Fists on one of the Long Riders, and then I think Madrak moving up, getting out... or upkeeping his Surefoot, I think putting more Fury into the stone to keep it fueled, and I believe he's in there camping on 2 as well as Surefoot. And then now behind Janissa's wall. So He's in the center of the zone, very center of the table, very well defended, and there's not much I can do about him at this point, especially with Surefoot up, affecting all those models around him too. Even if I'd have to kill those warders in the way, it's going to be very difficult at defense 14. Now here's the Long Riders going, taking some charges into the objective. The one with Flaming Fists going in. I think one of them was knocked down, actually, so he ended up just advancing. So 2 charges into the objective and 1 advance. The Flaming Fists, Long Rider doing a significant amount of damage at power 17, I think, 18 under the Creel Stone, dealing a ton of damage to the objective, leaving it on just a couple boxes, and then the other Long Rider is able to finish it off. So there's 1 point for my opponent, taking out the objective there, and unfortunately he doesn't have quite the attacks he needs to kill those 2 gun mages in the zone, so he's not going to be able to score this turn. But in the future, it will be pretty easy for him to score. So I'm going to have to probably commit the Storm Wall and try to stop him from scoring in the future. Here the Fenblade's going, just advancing to engage and get in the way of the Storm Wall there. So the plan here for this turn is to try to not lose on scenario, which seems like a pretty good plan. So I'm filling up the Storm Wall with 3 focus. Caine's advancing, and we're going to feat. So one of my favorite things to do with Caine is feat aggressively onto the Creel Stone. He ended up shooting, quick side note, he shot through the Storm Wall to the Fenblade that was engaging all those gun mages there. Boosted to hit, even though he was behind it, needed a 6. Hit the 6, and then rolled Snake Eyes for damage, so it doesn't end up breaking armor on that Fenblade. So not only is he not knocked down, he's not dead, and he's still engaging all those gun mages, and that's a pretty big deal, actually. But anyway, Caine's feeding. My dice don't go too well at this point. I think I end up missing 2 Long Riders. I need 8s to hit them, but then I hit 2 Gun Mages instead. Need 9s to hit them, so I end up killing 2 Gun Mages by accident, which was pretty unfortunate for me. But what I do end up doing is killing most of the Creel Stone, which is one of I think my favorite things about Caine. Again, in the particularly into the Trolls matchup, he ends up being able to move forward very aggressively. Trolls doesn't have a lot of ways to threaten him, especially if he can back up pretty far behind storm walls and clouds and stuff like that. And then he can just rinse the Creel Stone down with his feet and keep that aura very small. So he ends up killing, I think, 2 or 3 Creel Stone members at this point. He rolls pretty high damage into the Stone Scribe Chronicler, which unfortunately makes his tough check. And then he starts making initial attacks, shoots the Stone Scribe Chronicler again, and makes another tough check. So 2 tough checks on the Stone Scribe Chronicler, but the Creel Stone is down to just a couple members, I think, at this point. Some Gun Mage shots going down. We ended up taking out the rest of the Fenblades, except for the model who's engaging all of those Gun Mages. Now, fortunately, that's going to force him to field promote, so he's not going to be able to make attacks this turn. So we can move out of melee with impunity. And then a Hunter shot taking Horthal off of his Tuffalo. So here's the Stormwall moving forward. We're going to try to punch as many warders as we can to death here. So the plan here is to kill as many warders as I can. I was hoping for 2. The dice said no, however. I ended up boosting to hit with 1 fist, missing. Boosting to hit with the other fist, which I need to because of Surefoot. And then I ended up forcing a tough check, but unfortunately he passed it. So the Stormwall activation did not do any damage, really, besides triggering Battle Driven for those warders. And I was hoping to be able to clear out a space in front of the Stormwall, get the Gun Mages in front of there, and really clog up the space there. What I don't want is for all of the Trollbloods to get in and get in on the Stormwall. I think if my opponent's able to get a couple of Long Riders, as well as the warders, as well as Madrak with Flaming Fists in on the Stormwall, he's probably going to be able to kill it with our Arcane Shield. So that's what I was worried about. Ended up jamming up most of the warders, as you can see with Gun Mages there in the front. Unfortunately, hidden behind the Stormwall is a couple Gun Mages on the Long Riders. I think I actually forced a tough check with one of them with a charge, who only had 1 box left. Like I said before, there were 2 warders on 1 box, and I think one of them got knocked over by a Gun Mage attack. But anyway, those Gun Mages, using their defense 15 to just jam and hopefully survive. But we're back over to the Trollblood's turn at this point. That last Fenblade doing a ton of work. He ends up killing 1 Gun Mage with his Vengeance attack, moving over to kill another one. And my opponent considering his plan. I think Madrak's going to activate first here, I think is what's going on. Maybe. Someday. No, there goes the Fellcaller. Alright, so Fellcaller giving himself Pathfinder and just running into the zone there to contest. Just in case, another model up close. Madrak, here's Madrak's going. So he's casting Carnage for 3 Fury, leaving him on 1, and then using his feet. So giving all of those trolls in his control area overtake and additional attacks. So they're going to be able to chain through a bunch of infantry if they need to. It's mostly going to be used to clear off this jam of gun majors that I put in his way. But still getting in the way of the storm wall. So Madrak just moving backwards. I think my opponent was worried that if he moved up too far and use an overtake chain too far to clear off some of those gun mages, I think it could have given him a couple charges into the storm wall, but it would have sent him out of Janissa's range. So unfortunately, while he would have been able to kill a bunch of gun mages himself, especially with Mat 10 under Carnage, he wouldn't have been able to get the cover from Janissa, and he might have been open to an assassination run from those hunters and Caine later on. But here go the warders. Mat 9 under Carnage, not having trouble taking out those gun mages. One warder taking out 2 gun mages, taking his last attack into the storm wall, dealing a couple points of damage. They do have battle driven this time, so they are power 12 weapon masters at this point, which is pretty significant. The rest of the warders taking attacks on the storm wall and doing a significant amount of damage. I think my opponent's able to kill about 30% of the storm wall at this point, just with these warder attacks. He got 1 actual charge in on him to deal a significant amount of damage, and then 3 or 4 just normal attacks without charges, but still 3 dice at power 12. Stone moving up to give its protective aura out. Looks like only 1, just the actual Creo Stone there, as well as the Stone Scribe Elder. Now, here's the Impaler putting Far Strike into the Pyro Troll. And the Pyro Troll took a shot at Caine, boosted the hit, needed a 14, and ended up missing. My opponent is very low in time at this point. He's below 10 minutes, I think. So, unfortunately, he's looking for ways to end the game. And the Pyro Troll shot being one of them. Caine's squishy enough that if that shot hits, he could theoretically just win pretty easily. Missed that shot, ended up deviating into nowhere. The Long Rider's going, taking some more attacks, and killing off the gun mages that were jamming them. But fortunately, the storm wall is still operational at this point. So hopefully I'll be able to get enough warders that the storm wall can survive long enough for me to really make something happen and hopefully win on scenario at some point. But here I'm filling up the storm wall with a bunch of focus. I think Caine taking shots at Long Riders, needing only a couple. Not double ones to hit, and then a 6 to force a tough check on those ones that were sitting on 1 box. He ends up killing 2 warders, which is pretty solid. And then sitting on no focus, which might have been a mistake on my part. But ends up filling up the storm wall. The hunters moving up, moving in front of Caine, and taking some shots, trying to knock out as many warders as possible. Or kill the last Long Rider and then take some attacks on warders. So, the storm wall going, he dropped a lightning pod behind the Creo Stone, ended up killing him, because he can't self-sack the lightning pod because it's not an attack, and then taking attacks on warders that were outside of Surefoot, so he only needed 6s to hit. Ends up killing 2 warders, I think, so it's 2 warders down that won't be able to attack the storm wall anymore. And then, just chilling. Sorry, that might have been 3 warders. No, 2 warders. 2 warders down. Looks like 1 or 2 more have been knocked down as well. So the storm are looking significantly safer this turn. The hunters going, taking some aiming shots into the warders. 1 into Horthal, leaves him on 1 box. So unfortunately, Horthal's still on 1 box. Moving some gun mages up into the zone to try to take some shots. This gun mage is trying to block the way for that Fellcaller. It's another model I don't really want to charge the storm wall. Having 2 attacks with Weapon Master. And then taking some melee attacks into that last remaining Fenblade, unfortunately missing. Not really able to do much damage. Here is... Looks like the last Hunter taking a shot. No, I'm sorry. The last Gun Mage in the other team taking a shot at Horthal. Needing an 8 to hit and is having to force a tough check because he had 1 box left. Ends up forcing the tough check. So that Fenblade going again, killing the Gunmage in front of the Storm Wall, and then allowing that Fellcaller to get a charge off on it. Unfortunately, his charge attack isn't particularly great, but his second attack rolls very high and is able to do a significant amount of damage to the Storm Wall, knocking one side out. So my opponent, like I said before, very low on time, ends up sniping the Pyro Troll again. Pyro Troll aims and takes a shot at Caine. He's able to land the hit, needing a 12. So lands the hit, lights Caine on fire, deals a reasonable amount of damage, I think 9 damage or so. A dice -1, which is very scary for Caine at this point. He's on fire, only armor 13, and only has 6 boxes left. So an average roll on fire will kill him. And we roll it out. Fire takes it, and my opponent rolls a 7 to exactly kill Caine with fire. So a bit of an anticlimactic ending, unfortunately. But with my opponent as low on time as he was looking for assassination options, as I said before, and I could have definitely kept Caine a little bit safer. All I needed to do was move those 2 hunters base to base in front of him, but I didn't really respect the threat of the Pyro Troll just shooting Caine every turn. I could also have moved a model over there to engage the Pyro Troll, so my opponent would at least have to clear it off before the Pyro Troll was able to aim, or anything like that could have helped me a lot. But my opponent had about 2 minutes left on his death clock, so had he not killed Caine at that point, I think he probably would have lost on death clock. I don't think he has the time to kill the Stormwall left, or really score a lot of scenario points at that point. But obviously, very exciting game. Most of my gun mages are dead. The Stormwall is about half dead, but I successfully killed most of the troll models. And Caine has a lot of ability to really close out a game by himself. He can kill a lot of models and teleport around the board. And as long as my opponent is slow enough, just like Madrak, Caine can really run circles around them and hopefully make something happen. So a bit of an interesting game, very interesting matchup, not something you see in a tournament every day. Neither of these casters are really what you want to drop into the opposing faction, but I thought another cool matchup that I'd like to get a battle report out to you guys. So I hope you enjoyed it. Stay tuned for some more battle reports. I'm going to try to get a couple of them out. Hopefully not as too long, not as long as as the wait was between this one and the last one. But I can't make too many promises. I record these battle reports when I am able to get time at local game stores to play casual games, and unfortunately that doesn't really happen very much lately. But we'll see what happens. Again, check out waveoftheswan.com to see all the the new website and how everything's pretty and stuff. And remember to like, subscribe, comment, do all that cool YouTube stuff. And take it easy, folks.